Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's video conference call with Edmonton Oilers Director of Amateur Scouting, Tyler Wright, in advance of the 2020 NHL Draft on October 6th and 7th. A reminder, procedure-wise, is if you'd like to ask a question, please use the raise hand function, and I'll let you know, unmute your microphone, and you can ask your question. So we're ready to take questions at this point. First question is in from Adam Cook. Adam Cook, as soon as you're unmuted, you can ask your question.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
Obviously, the big elephant in the room is how difficult has your job and the job of your staff, how difficult has it been with you not being able to see these prospects for, 7 months? I mean, how difficult is this?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult, but there's 30 odd teams in the same boat. So, you know what, the one thing that majority of people on, majority teams, but I can only really speak for us as the Oilers, the body of work that we have done before this, it's pretty extensive. So, we hit pause here around March 12th. We've still been working kind of tirelessly through different platforms to watch these kids on video. Have had some luxury of some of these kids playing. I shouldn't say kids, young men playing, over in Europe has started up in certain areas. So there's still some work to be done. It's just been drawn out a little bit longer, and it's a crazy world right now that we're living in.
Next question will be to Derek Van Diest at Post Media. Derek, go ahead.
Hi, Tyler. I just wanted to ask you about your draft strategy going into the draft. You have a pick you have a 14th overall pick, and then you may not have a pick till the 5th round. Are you guys looking at a certain player at that first round pick, and if he's not there, would you look at maybe trading down to get some other picks in maybe the 2nd or 3rd round?
Yeah, I think everything's, we're open to really anything at this point. 14, we obviously think, you're still, you gotta, there's 13 picks that you kind of got to wait to see who goes before you, obviously. But, we've got some guys targeted at 14. We've got trade back scenarios. We got trade up scenarios for that matter. We've got our 3rd round pick. We got to let Calgary know by the beginning of the 3rd, whether we're going to use that pick or not. So I think we're going to have some options. We always have options. Whether we act on that, I'm not sure at this stage. Once the first round, is over on Tuesday night, we'll reconvey with, the staff and kind of see what's available here going forward and who we could think that might be able to slide into that 3rd round, and whether we make that decision. Probably won't be till the beginning of the 3rd round, but we're going to have some options, obviously, either way. But really right now our strategy is to make the pick at 14, and we think we're going to be adding a really good player into the organization.
Next question will be Reed Wilkins from Ched. Reminder, use the raise hand function if you'd like to ask a question. Reed, as soon as your microphone's active, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Reed.
Thanks, Andre. Thanks for doing this, Tyler. Tyler, look, we see the heights on the guys. You got just the 6'4", 6'5" guys. You got the 5'9" and 5'10" guys. We've seen Kyler Yamamoto jump into the NHL and do a great job. Can you speak to small players, evaluating them? Is there a different criteria for a smaller player, over the last 5 or 10 years with some of the changes to the game? Has projecting smaller players changed over the years? I'm just curious how you see that, because it's something we talk about a lot, but you're actually out there doing it all the time. So I'm wondering, if there has been a shift in how small players are perceived or skill sets that they have to have now to make it, as opposed to a few years ago.
Yeah, I think you hit it, dead on right there. I think you have to be an innovator. We have to try to project on where the NHL is going in 3 to 4 years, and you see now kind of the abundance of smaller players coming into the league and having some success. Does that alter your your philosophy, absolutely. You mean, I think as an organization, not only do we have to adapt and try to project on not only where the league and the game is going to go, but how we want the Edmonton Oilers to look. And obviously, Ken Holland wants his team to look, in a certain way here going forward. So we do have a playbook. We have a plan. We got a blueprint on how we want the Edmonton Oilers to look, and we're going to stick to that. And I think, we're continually trying to adapt to that with the smaller players. I think with the smaller players, at the end of the day, they always have to kind of prove that they can play. And then when they do prove that they can play, I think they become a commodity or an asset for that matter. I think it's just kind of been in human nature where the bigger players, kind of tend to get a little bit more shot, a little bit more opportunity, because you always are intrigued that maybe they can play and they get a little bit more opportunity. But for sure, you look at the game with the smaller defense. You look what Cale Makar's done and Quinn Hughes has done. Two young kids that aren't the biggest kids in the world, two young men for that matter, that have had really early success. And we're altering that. We're open to ideas. We're not against small players by any means, but at the end of the day, we want to have this team look in the way that our game plan is, in 4 or 5 years from now.
Well, thank you, Tyler. And to members of the media, I'll just note, I'll leave your microphone after open, just in case you have a follow-up question. And if you don't, you can mute yourself, and then I'll go to the next question. So next question will be to Derek Van Diest at Post Media. Derek, as soon as your microphone's active, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tyler, I just want to ask you, I guess your draft philosophy. Do you look to draft for need, or are you looking at drafting the best player available when it comes to your pick?
It's a great question. I think it's a combination of both. The way that we want to look, the way the Edmonton Oilers look compared to the way maybe Boston Bruins or the Philadelphia Flyers or whoever you want to say, they have different philosophies and different, game plans. But the way that we want to look, we have to take the best player that we deem possible. If that's, we've got areas that we know that we have to improve internally. Obviously a tie would go to that philosophy within the organization, but we're not going to pass on a good player just because maybe we have a luxury of, or an abundance of that. You can never have enough centermen. You can never have enough scoring wingers. You can never have enough defensemen. You can never have enough goalies. So at the end of the day, they got to fit in, positional wise. Are you going to take a right-handed shot or a left-handed shot? I think, we look at all that. We put that into part of the equation, but at the end of the day, we're taking the best player and that we deem right now. Not only right now, but we got to project on, we don't want the best player at 18, we want the best player at 21, 22, 23, whatever maturity level and the development growth. We have to draft right, we have to develop right, and we have to be patient with these kids and bring them along and add them to this group that we've got here. And that's our philosophy going in.
Just a quick follow-up to that, Tyler. I just want to ask you about, you have a window of opportunity here, obviously with Connor and Leon on the team, and you guys are looking to win right away. Does that change the philosophy when you look at a guy that you think might be ready a year or two down the road, as opposed to a guy that you don't think will be ready about 2 or 3 years down the road?
Yeah, we talk about it internally for sure. We have projections on, this guy, physically, might not be mature enough yet to play. Might take a little bit longer time, but we're prepared for that matter. We do have a window of opportunity right now. We have an opportunity with our young kids coming up that are going to make a big push. It's vital for you to be able to win the Stanley Cup. You have to have guys on entry-level contracts playing, and we're trying to add to that. So the sooner that we can get this player in, now it's a catch-22. You don't want to rush players. Ken I've worked with him in Detroit for 7 years before coming in here, and his philosophy is never to rush players. They're going to allow us, and they're going to make the decision. They're going to let us know by their play on when they're ready. And I think, it's, Kyler Yamamoto coming up this year, and, Ethan Bear doing what he did, Caleb Jones doing what he did. These kids, they're waiting for an opportunity. I shouldn't say kids, they're young men. They're waiting for an opportunity, and hopefully we're just going to put them in a position where we can for them to succeed.
Next question to Jack Michaels, also Ched Radio. Jack, as soon as you're ready, go ahead.
Tyler, first of all, the relief on your face is evident that you don't have to carry me in your foursome like you did at this time a year ago. But
I was actually going to bring that up before your question too. Thank God. I've hoped over the last 6 months you were able to work on your golf game, because it was not pretty to start with. I know.
I think you have to have a game in order to work on it. But my question would be, and maybe this has to do with the comfort level that you have with Ken, is your job primarily and I think it's the gap in picks that lead many people to believe that this 14 pick may be currency, but is part of your job to kind of adjust and adapt based on, if a pick becomes 2 other picks or 3 other picks, and have that cluster of players ready and available to go over at a moment's notice?
100%. A big part of the challenge, for myself is to be ready for every situation. And, behind the scenes that we do to prepare to that, we've got a target at 14. Do we make the pick at 14? I'm not sure yet. We have to figure out what goes 1 to 13 before that. A lot of things happen. I think one of the biggest criteria too is to know the draft well enough to where maybe the industry, and I'm not saying it's right, but to where people have set players to get the most value for your pick. It's not just going up to the draft board and saying, I'm going to be smarter than everybody and we're going to make this pick. It's about maximizing your position. It's a poker game without gambling, but you're taking risks. You're trying to maximize the value of the pick or the lack of that picks. We got no second. We got to make a decision on a third. Do we entertain going back and gaining a second round pick and kind of gambling, but knowing that player is there? And if that player is not there, you have to be ready for that next cluster of players. And how far do you go back? You're at 14, you're in a good spot. If you go all the way back to 30, 31, you're taking yourself at a whole another, cluster of players. That doesn't mean that player in 5 years is going to be better than, the pick at 31. It's just kind of where the industry has set that, and you want to maximize your draft value. The more picks that you get, obviously, the more kicks at the can, the more people you put into a prospect pool, the odds are just proven that, you're going to have a better opportunity to develop a player with the more players that you have.
And my follow-up would be, does the lack of a second or fourth, at least right now, theoretically make it more likely that you defer the third to next year, which would then allow you time to potentially recoup that third round pick? I'm not trying to box you in a corner, but does it make it more likely?
I don't know if it makes it more likely. We're prepared to make the pick. We're prepared to give the pick up. I think we have to determine, if we make the pick, is that pick a value pick at this stage? It's so many things happen so quick on draft day. You may want to be able to trade back. You may want to do it, but you have to have a willing partner as well to be able to, give you the assets that you want to move back. At the end of the day, I know what picks we have. Can we gain more picks? We could lose more picks. It really depends on kind of how everything unfolds. And are we going to make the pick? I can't tell you if we're going to make the pick in the third round or not. If there's somebody there that we deem that we like, and with that pick, we'll make the pick. If not, we have opportunity to trade back and recoup, or we give it up. So I think that's really a decision for day two. Let's get through day one first.
Next up, Reed Wilkins from CHED. Go ahead, Reed.
Yeah, thanks for letting me jump in again. Tyler, I've not necessarily a draft-related question specifically, but one about evaluating younger players and where the game might be headed and what's happening in junior. And that is about some of the rule changes with fighting. OHL has the suspension rule. The QMJHL is making it a 15-minute penalty. I know you don't draft necessarily a guy because he can fight, but there's always been that, he gets 100 points and he'll stand up for his teammates. Maybe that's coming out of the game a little bit. I'm just wondering how you see some of these rules. Have you seen dramatic changes in aggression, standing up for your teammates, that kind of things in junior hockey since we've seen fighting decline?
Yeah, I think the game has changed, obviously, just not over the course of 5 years, maybe 10 years. Even, I don't want to date myself on how old I am, but at the end of the day, from when I played junior and to the time you retire, and then till the time you get back into the game and you're watching this, the game's changing for sure. Do we want people to take liberty at our players? Absolutely not. I think you form a team of more team toughness, a team mentality where, you're hard to play against. I don't know how many fights there were in the playoffs this year. I do know it was hard fought battles. I think there were guys that were targeting, you gotta target the best players to make life miserable and hard on those players. Does that mean fighting? I think that's kind of been lost in the last little bit. But at the end of the day, you want competitive players. You need competitive players. And I think the definition of competitive is a better term to, maybe that's altered more in the last decade. Are you competitive physically? Are you competitive, stick wise, for the puck? Are you competitive for your teammate? Are you competitive in a face-off circle? I think there's various definitions of competitiveness, and I think you need them all.
Thanks, Reed. Next question, back to Adam Cook from CTV. Adam, go ahead when your mic's ready.
Oh, thanks very much. Tyler, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. So Tyler, considering we've heard guys in your position before say in the past, obviously, that to a certain extent, the draft is a bit of a crapshoot. Is that especially true this year, given the fact that how COVID has restricted people in your position as far as evaluating talent? And with the format of the virtual draft, and you alluded to that earlier, that things happen pretty fast when you're on the draft floor. Are you worried about that you may be impeded? So I guess, first of all, is it going to be more of a crapshoot this year? And with the way the draft is going, do you think that may slow some deals down or prevent people from, making a proposition?
No, I don't think so. I got a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old at home. I've gone through, these are 18-year-old young men. Like, we're trying to predict their future where they don't know their future yet. So when it becomes a crapshoot, yeah, everybody's story is different because, people are mentally and physically, some are a little bit more immature than others. Some have tapped out, maybe their growth-wise, if they're, 5'11", 195 pounds physically. Some are men already. Some are still just young men that are really growing into their bodies physically and mentally. There's a time frame where you got to buy them time. You have to put them in a position to succeed. A, you have to draft right, and B, you have to develop right. And some terms are shorter than other guys. As far as this year being a crapshoot, these kids have been on the radar for a long period of time. We've watched a lot of these kids 2-3 years in advance, not because we're targeting them, because they were that good. They're either playing up in their leagues, or they're playing in various leagues. Whether it's in the CHL as a 16-year-old, or they're playing as a 17-year-old in pro hockey over in Europe. You see these kids by default. Nobody is just coming into the radar for us, especially in the first round, for that matter. I think it might get a little bit more trickier, in the midterm rounds, where there hasn't been a lot more viewings. These, the players that go in rounds 4 to 7, obviously there's a reason why they're in there, in that slot, sort of say, right now. But that doesn't mean that they can't be a good player in 5 years from now. We have to find those players. It's our responsibility to find. Can't just say it's a 5th round pick or it's a 6th round pick. Every pick that we make, we're excited about, because they bring in an element. They have something that we want, and now it's our job to exploit that. It's to give them every resource possible as a development, to put them in every position, whether it's a strength and conditioning coach, whether it's nutrition, and we got to give these kids the resources for them to get better, and ultimately they have to want to do it as well. I think one of the biggest development plans is character. Do you want to be a player? Are you going to put the time in? That's what separates a lot of players from even playing in the league, or that's what separates a good player from being a great player.
We'll take one final question. We have Derek Van Dies from Post Media. Derek, go ahead. Your microphone's open.
Hi, Tyler. Just going into this draft, I just wanted to get your gut feeling on whether or not will there be more movement, you think, in previous drafts, or less movement than in previous drafts? I know in previous drafts you could actually go walk to a table, talk to a GM, and now you kind of have to go out and make a phone call or connect to him in another way. How do you see this thing breaking down here? Do you think there's going to be more movement or less? And people will kind of keep the picks that they have?
It's an interesting time, obviously, with a flat cap. And a lot of times at the draft, you see a lot of movements that impact the cap. Obviously I'm in Edmonton right now, and we're going through it, and I know Ken's been on the phone regularly. So, we're trying to put things into play, as far as trading up or trading back, or do you trade the pick for a player? Like there's talk. So is it going to be more or less? I'm not sure 100%. I think we're still kind of working under the same circumstances right now. It's just a little bit further away.